All right, today we are diving into a word that has just completely blown up online. We're talking about a 400% search and searches for it, and that word is peptides. So, are they some kind of miracle cure for, everything from losing weight to turning back the clock? Or is this all just a medical mystery that's wrapped up in a ton of controversy? Well, let's get into it. Let's just start with this quote from an expert in the field, Dr. Alex Tatum, because it gets right to the point. He says peptides might be the most dangerous thing to the entire business model of the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, that is a huge claim. So what is it about these tiny little molecules that makes them so disruptive? And that really brings us to the central puzzle here, the peptide paradox. For years, these things were being hailed for their incredible promise. You had doctors prescribing them, patients were getting amazing results, and then, boom, suddenly they were banned. It just left everybody scratching their heads and asking, why? I mean, can you imagine you finally find something that works for a nagging injury or maybe a metabolic issue you've been struggling with for years? It's working. Your doctor is telling you it seems incredibly safe, and then just overnight, you get an email saying, sorry, that's illegal now. That was the reality for so many patients. So, okay, before we get any further into the drama, let's just back up a second. We should probably establish what we're actually talking about. What even is a peptide? Dr. Tatum has this brilliant analogy. Think about amino acids as being the Legos of your body, right? With the same box of Legos, you can decide to build a race car or a pirate ship or a rocket. Well, peptides are kind of like that. They're just short little chains of these Lego-like amino acids, but they're arranged in a very specific way to create a signal that tells your cells exactly what to do. And this right here, this gets to the core of why peptides are seen as so revolutionary. A traditional drug, you can think of it like a hammer. Sure, it gets the job done, but it can cause a lot of collateral damage along the way, what we all call side effects. A peptide, on the other hand, it's more like a key. It's a key that's been designed for one single specific lock in your body. And that targeted action, well, it means way fewer unwanted effects. So if these things are like super specific keys, what kinds of locks can they open? I mean, what can peptides actually do? Well, the answer seems to be a whole lot. Seriously, their versatility is just staggering. You've got peptides like tirzepatide for weight loss, which you may have heard of, BPC-157 for helping repair injuries, and then there are compounds being studied for literally everything from improving your sleep to boosting your brain function. At this point, the question isn't really what can peptides do, it's becoming what can't they do. And the public has definitely caught on. Like we said, Google searches for peptides have just skyrocketed by 400%. This isn't some niche underground topic anymore. It is exploding into the mainstream health conversation. But what does this actually look like in the real world for a real person? Dr. Tatum shared this powerful story about a patient of his who was struggling with obesity and infertility. By using a peptide, tirzepatide, he lost 100 pounds. It completely transformed his metabolic health, and as a direct result, his sperm count increased tenfold, which finally allowed him and his wife to start a family. Just incredible. Okay, so this all sounds amazing, right? Which, of course, brings us right back to the mystery we started with. If these things are so great and so promising, why on earth were they banned? How did we end up in this weird state of peptide limbo? Well, it was really a perfect storm of events. It starts around 2012, when a terrible scandal at a compounding pharmacy led to a major, and frankly, necessary, FDA crackdown. Then, a year later, a Supreme Court ruling comes down that says you can't patent naturally occurring substances. That basically removed any financial reason for Big Pharma to spend millions developing them. And then, in 2023, the FDA just abruptly moves 19 popular peptides onto the banned list, saying there wasn't enough safety data. And this is where the story gets really murky. The official reason was safety. But since these compounds are direct competition for very profitable, patented drugs, it raises the big question. Was this really about protecting people, or was it about protecting profits? When asked if Big Pharma's influence was a factor in that ban, Dr. Tatum's response was, well, it was not subtle. He said 110%. He argues that, look, while there might not be a direct competing drug for something like BPC-157, every single dollar a consumer spends on a compounded peptide is a dollar they're not spending on a commercial prescription. It all just points to the very strong possibility of industry lobbying. So all of this leaves us in a really complex and honestly confusing spot. Where does that leave patients right now? What are the risks, and what does the future even hold for this stuff? Okay, so essentially, the peptide world today is split into three different tiers, or three lanes. First, you've got your fully FDA approved, patented commercial drugs. Think Ozempic. Then in the second lane, you have this group that's stuck in limbo, waiting for the FDA to review them so they can be legally made by custom pharmacies again. And then you've got the third lane. That's the Wild West, the risky, unregulated research use only gray market. And that gray market is a huge, huge concern. The ban pretty much pushed a lot of consumers towards these online sellers where everything is labeled for research use only. Dr. Totem compares it to buying gas station sushi. You have absolutely no idea what is actually in that vial. Is it pure? Is it contaminated? Is it even the right substance? It's just a massive, massive risk. But it's not all bad news. There is a glimmer of hope here. The FDA is currently re-evaluating 7 of these key peptides, and this includes some of the heavy hitters, like BPC-177 for repair, MOTS-X, which people call exercise in a vial, and Cadex-LX-GX for cognition. If they get a positive review, that could move them from the ban list back into a safe, regulated system where doctors can actually prescribe them again. Now, just to understand the sheer scale of the money at stake here, just look at this. This year, just 2 of the weight loss peptides are projected to bring in over $55 billion in revenue. That's almost as much as the top players in the entire AI industry combined. The demand is just astronomical. And you better believe this is just the beginning. Big Pharma is now in a full-on arms race to develop and patent the next generation of these things. There's a drug called Peptide already in the pipeline that's showing even more dramatic results for weight loss and even liver health. Dr. Tatum predicts it's going to be a $1 trillion drug. Which leaves us with this one final, really provocative thought. We have these incredibly precise tools that can target specific biological pathways. We have a pipeline of even more powerful versions on the way. So are we standing right on the edge of a true revolution in personalized medicine? One where we can actually use peptides to fine-tune our own health? That is the question that could very well define the next decade of medicine.